Be ready to attack Rockbridge at noon tomorrow. Here's your badge.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
I didn't have it recording. What'd you do?
I stuck it in a different hole.
All right.
Did the trick. All right, I got to go get some alcohol. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Well, that's perfect. That's a perfect time to start. All right. This is the next podcast. I'm not even going to keep counting because, I never know whether to count the first one or not because I don't know if we'll ever find it.
We count the first one. I think this is 5.
It counts, man.
It counts, but
It counts.
Well, I'm guessing we'll probably find it by maybe season 2 or season 3. It'll be one of the lost episodes.
We'll put it on the season DVD as an extra.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, this week I'm here with Brian, Jason, and Diego again. Sometimes he finally got his headphones working, and we're going to be doing Blazing Saddles this time. So this is Brian's choice. So Brian, why don't you tell us why you chose Blazing Saddles this week?
Well, this is one of the classic movies of my childhood. This will always be one of my favorite movies that my dad introduced me to Mel Brooks. And it's still a bond we have. His ringtone when he calls my phone is the theme song to Blazing Saddles. So when we had a chance to do old movies, and Matt, you opened the door to older movies than just 80s genre movies, I thought immediately of Blazing Saddles. I had seen bits and pieces of it. I mean, I've probably seen the movie 30 times over the years, but I hadn't seen the whole movie in a long time. I'd just seen bits and pieces as it was on. And so it was cool to watch it again and just kind of reminisce of, how funny I thought this movie was as a kid, but also because we live in an era now with political correctness that I firmly believe you could not make this movie now. It was a 70s movie made in 1974 in the era of All in the Family and I think just a more honest dialogue about race and other issues in our country, and it's fascinating to look back on it. I think as much culturally as it is as a film. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of get you guys take on it and see what you thought here 40 years after it was released.
I think not only is it not only could it not be made today, but it can almost be even hard to review today, just because everything you say, like it's going to be hard to even get quotes from this.
You got to be very careful. Like there's no way. Just this movie can't be made today. I mean, take another classic 70s movie, the original Bad News Bears. That they tried to remake that a couple years ago, and they had to really tone it down. Same thing with Blazing Saddles. You cannot possibly make that movie this day and age.
Brian, I just have one question.
Yeah.
Did you find the movie to be iconic?
Oh, he beat me to it.
Mel Brooks is an icon.
Yeah, it to me, it is. But yeah, the running joke is how many times I said it during the Predator podcast. So I'm trying to get that out of my lexicon for this podcast.
I think you said it like 15 times during the Predator podcast. Just wanted to point that out.
The movie is so good, it calls for you to say iconic 15 times.
You know which podcast I don't think I said it, though?
In the Line of Fire.
In the Line of Fire, maybe?
Now, why was that?
I don't know.
Because you guys hate on the classic movie that I picked.
Not a classic.
I've never heard classic used in the Line of Fire before. I think that's a new one.
All right, before we forget, what's everyone drinking tonight?
Who wants to go? I'll go.
I'll start. Jameson on the rocks, and I've drank that many weeks so far, so it's my go-to.
All right, I'm actually having a hard root beer that my wife bought. It's Coney Island brand, and it's not nearly as good as this is your father's root beer or grandfather's root beer. It's a little bit more bitter. Not a fan.
Brian?
I am still totally wrecked from my golf outing on Wednesday when I drank entirely too many beers.
You're old.
I was drinking. Oh my God, I killed myself, and so I'm going sober tonight. I'm drinking root beer. So
I thought we had a policy.
Well, I mean, we've already waited.
2 policies: no kids and alcohol.
Sounds like Brian's kid got in the alcohol.
we got a meltdown here. No. I mean, when we what are we 2 weeks overdue for this one? So I just figured you got to take it when you can get it. Yeah. So yeah, if we got to break a rule or two here, we got to break it. So
Just all right. We'll let you slide.
So one
I
quick
always
question.
heard that Hair of the Dog was supposed to help, right? No.
Well, I thought
Am I wrong?
about it, but I chose not to today. But anyway, I'm gonna soldier on. I'll do my best.
All right, hey, one quick question, guys. What do you guys think of the sound of my brand new mic?
It sounds good.
Does it? Because
Yeah.
you guys were saying that I sounded pretty good in one of the other podcasts, and I had no mic. So I'm trying to see if this actually sounds better, or if I should return it and be pissed at Matt for making me spend $50.
No, it sounds good.
Okay, cool. Anyway,
Yeah, that's good. So Matt, what are you drinking?
I decided to drink something new this week. I'm drinking Beck's, and I got it from Costco.
Wow.
I haven't finished it yet. I have several cases. I am working very hard at getting to the bottom of them.
Beck's from Costco. Who would have thought? Somebody is definitely going for that
last
sponsorship.
time I didn't have Costco. I think I was drinking rum and Coke or something. Yeah, that was the
I don't
good
even
episode.
remember.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
long ago, I don't
Blazing
even-
Saddles, guys. Filmed in 1974. Anybody see this in the theater?
Let's see, 7th of February. No, I was not around until May, so that'd be an impossibility. Well, then again, actually released it in '74 and brought it back out. It was so successful, they brought it back out in '75 and put it back in the theaters. But I still don't think I saw this one in the theater.
Well, maybe you're in your mom's stomach and she went to saw it. So you know, in a roundabout way, you've seen it.
Could have been.
I think you like it so
I
much.
can't even-
I would not be surprised.
Probably not.
Well, talking about this movie being successful, though, one thing I was kind of researching it, and this movie cost all of $2 million to make, actually $2.6 million to make, and it grossed $119.5 million. That's a pretty good.
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a nice little return there.
And it almost never got made. I mean, I think there were several points in the thing where it almost didn't get funded or did not get released. And
why
Mel
is that?
Brooks figuratively stuck to his guns because even back then it was risque. I mean, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, they make fun of
Everybody,
Westerns.
everything.
They're making fun of
Chinese.
Asians, blacks, gay people, white people. I mean, everybody within the first 5 minutes of the movie. So it tells you exactly what it's going to be. And then they had the first major fart scene in a movie.
Around the campfire where they're all eating beans,
Campfire.
drinking coffee.
And there was so much in it that was risque. And actually the one thing that Mel Brooks did have to do is he originally wanted Richard Pryor to play the sheriff, Sheriff Bart, and he couldn't do it because Richard Pryor's stand-up was so risque that the studios wouldn't let him.
That's amazing. They would make this movie, but yet they wouldn't allow Richard Pryor to be in it.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because, I mean, it's not like they were holding back anywhere else in this movie.
Yeah, he was one of the 5 writers of the movie, but he was not able to play Black Bart, and so they ended up getting Cleavon Little, who was a theatrical actor.
But that would have been pretty amazing, too, because Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor starred in a couple movies together, so that would have gave them another one in their whole list.
It would have. And Gene Wilder actually wasn't supposed to be in the original movie. Well, Mel Brooks wanted him to play Hedley Lamar, and he didn't want to play Hedley Lamar. So he ended up playing, obviously, the Waco Kid, but he was not the first choice for the Waco Kid either. There were 2 other actors that were supposed to play that part, and he ended up filling in. And while they were filming this movie, he was writing Young Frankenstein.
Brian, we're getting a little bit of reverb while you're talking here. I don't know why.
Really?
I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shoot, I'm hearing it from maybe multiple people. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know, $50 model.
I think it's just Brian. Right.
Is it?
No, I'm hearing you too, Matt.
I'm not hearing you guys.
That's
Oh,
weird.
well, let's just plow ahead.
Okay.
Now that
Well-
you've destroyed the flow, I don't even know what we were just talking
Billy,
about.
the other day I was going down on my girlfriend. I said, "Geez, you got a big pussy. Geez, you got a big pussy."
Oh my God.
Wrong
I'm
podcast.
having flashbacks. So, hey, why don't you give us just a brief synopsis of the movie, just so the people listening, if they haven't seen it, know what it's about.
Well, the movie is set in 1874, and it's basically the railroad is expanding westward or eastward, depending on where this actually is, wherever Rockridge really is. But the railroad's expanding, and they're in order to avoid some quicksand, they've got to cut through this little town of Rockridge. Hedley Lamar, who is one of the major politicians in the story, is corrupt and he's involved with the railroad. He's pushing his band of cutthroats to take out the town of Rockridge so this railroad can go through. It doesn't work out. They end up having to get a sheriff. The citizens of Rockridge petition the governor for a sheriff, and Hedley Lamar comes up with this idea to give him a black sheriff, thinking that the townspeople will just kill their own sheriff and no big deal, they'll be able to run the railroad through. Well, obviously through the story, Bart, who was a railroad worker, becomes the sheriff, becomes the hero of the story. It basically shows how all the people that were lined up against him were stupid, and how he, good. It's the old good triumphs over evil, but in corruption and all that. But it's comedy all the way through, where you're basically looking at racism, sexism, gender inequality. You name it, they make fun of it in this movie. So that's like we talked about in the first 5 minutes, they pretty much tell you what this movie's going to be about.
I think that's a pretty good synopsis.
That's a great synopsis, actually. And getting back to what you guys were saying earlier about this film not probably being able to be made in 2015, I think the only reason it was even made back then is because it was satire. Had it been, a serious movie, I don't think you could have made it. I don't think you could have made it.
And I think they took the opportunity to make a satire movie and actually show like real bits of like kind of racism and all of that as well too, to kind of show how ridiculous it is. So it took that opportunity.
There was racism in this movie?
No, not at all.
Where? Did I watch the wrong movie?
I mean, did you guys, growing up when we did, obviously some of the language was much more common when we were kids. But I would say, like,
wait a minute, where did you grow up? That's not.
Oh man, I heard it all when we were kids, and that was the '80s. I think in the '80s this stuff was much more acceptable. It doesn't mean that it was okay then, but it was much more commonly heard. And I'll tell you now, in 2015, it's a little strange to watch a movie where you hear the N-bomb as many times as we heard it, and it's satire, but it's still kind of shocking, I think, to hear some of the racist commentary or the racist statements that are made in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's definitely tough this day and age to probably hear that kind of stuff, and probably it's not going to play as well to, let's say, younger generations, particularly those that are in probably their teens, maybe in their 20s at this point. Weaver, did you have something to say?
I totally agree. I mean, the other thing about it is that, the other part of the context that we can't appreciate now, back then, is they were making fun of all the Westerns, because they had all those spaghetti Westerns that were out. All the Clint Eastwood Westerns were either before this or coming in after this. I mean, this was a huge genre of film that basically the entire movie is making fun of. And in it, it's making fun of how stupid it is to be overtly racist just because of the way somebody looks or the way someone talks.
And speaking of Clint Eastwood, have you guys seen any good Clint Eastwood movies lately? Maybe I've seen a few epic ones, even iconic, that were maybe a little better than In the Line of Fire. I think maybe we should do one next week. I can't decide which of the 12 that I like better than In the Line of Fire that we should pick. That's the only hard part.
Are you done?
Well, you think about that. So at the end of this podcast, you could come up with, your recommendation.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you provide some substance to this podcast instead of making fun of my choices?
It's so much fun. Anyway,
Part-
I was
part of-
going to say really quick, I need to drink another beer because Brian's not drinking, so I'm going to drink on behalf of him as well.
Yeah, good,
That's nice.
Good. And pick up the slack. I appreciate that. So
think it would've
the other
been-
thing I was going to say about this one is that not only when we talked about making fun of the basically the cowboy westerns of the 70s, it starts at the very beginning. This theme song. The guy who actually sang the theme song was a serious country western artist, and he did a lot of songs for those kind of movies. And Mel Brooks originally wanted someone that sounded like him to do the theme. Then this guy actually turns up to sing the song, and Mel Brooks chose not to tell him this was a comedy because he wanted it to be sung like a serious western song.
Wait, the opening song, that wasn't Mel Brooks singing?
No,
I thought it
No,
was,
yeah.
actually.
no.
I'm telling you, I honestly thought the moment I heard the opening song, I said to myself, oh my God, Mel Brooks is singing the opening song.
Who sang it?
It is Frankie Lane.
Wow. I'm
And,
very
and Frankie Lane, what's crazy about Blazing Saddles is it was nominated for 3 Academy Awards in 1975, and the music was one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's editing, music, and then Madeline Kahn, actually, who's phenomenal in this movie. She was nominated as the best supporting actress, and it was actually her second year in a row being nominated as a best supporting actress.
Who beat her out? I'm surprised she didn't win.
Now I got to Google it.
I like her. You got to love her name, Lily von Stoop.
Yep.
On Stupp.
The German showgirl, the love interest for Black Bart.
Best supporting actress was Ingrid Bergman for Murder on the Orient Express.
She was robbed.
Oh, that's right. Murder of the Orient. Man, I haven't seen that movie in forever. Huh. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that year, De Niro won Best Supporting Actor for The Godfather Part 2.
Oh, wow. Your kids are
Someone-
really going crazy right
Yeah,
now.
I'm
Somebody didn't like De Niro winning, apparently. Screaming, no!
75.
Yeah, I think one of the Godfather movies would be a good choice for one of our future reviews.
Potentially. Is it iconic enough, though?
Well, I don't know. It's up there. It's up there.
First
So
of
I
all,
believe. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, do we still have that rule that the movie has to be like 20 years or older?
We didn't ever said 20 years. I think it had to be like 70s or 80s, essentially.
Well,
No,
it was
I picked-
originally 70s or 80s or whatever, and then Diego got into 93, and I'm like, whatever, let's just make it at least 20.
It wasn't 93. I think it was 91.
94.
No, In the Line of Fire? I think it was.
Yeah, no, it didn't come out when I was in high school. I was in
man.
college when it came out.
Oh, 93. He was right. I apologize. Man, that is too new.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
So,
Don't let it happen again, Diego.
Hey, so the character Mongo, were they trying to also make fun of maybe people with mental issues?
I'm
doubt.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Kind of
I mean-
reminded me of Handyman from In Living
Is
Color.
Mon-
That's
Mongo-
Alex Karras.
Is Mongo short for something?
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
didn't see any story about the name, where the name Mongo came from, but obviously Alex Karras was a pro football player for the Detroit Lions.
And Webster's
And
dad.
And Webster's dad, who has since passed, but he was also he and Paul Hornung were suspended from the NFL for gambling on games.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
They don't have lifetime ban like the pros baseball does.
my favorite line by Mongo is where he says, "Mongo only pawn in game of life." That's great, man. I mean,
Now,
this
can
movie
you
has so many great lines.
But can you believe that Alex Karras in 1974 was only 39 years old, and he did not look like an NFL player to me? I mean,
Well, you got to remember, back in the 60s and early 70s, those guys weren't roid mongers yet until actually the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders in the 70s started juicing
Started
up
roiding.
and everybody started getting
Right.
big. Yeah.
but he was super doughy. For a 39-year-old ex-NFL player, he was super doughy in that movie.
Have you seen what most
ex-NFL
Americans
players
look
are
like in their
super doughy.
30s?
No, well, I'm 39. I'm actually the exact same age that Alex
No,
Karras
but look at
was.
all the guys after they retire, the bigger guys, they all get fat.
And they didn't have the
No.
same kind of training that they do now. Like they didn't have the diets and all the high level
Yeah,
training.
all the
either.
linemen, all the linebackers, they all get fat.
I get it, but you wouldn't see. I guess what I'm saying is you wouldn't see today, for obvious reasons, you wouldn't see today an ex-NFL player at 39 look as small, especially for his position, as small and as doughy as he does. I mean, you'd basically see linemen who are maybe as doughy but way bigger, or you'd see linebackers who are ex-linebackers who are muscular still. And also, just overall bigger guys. You don't see guys that look like that. Not that he was a small guy, but you don't see guys that look like that at 39 that are ex-NFL players very often. Not these days.
Well, again, that generation of players, you're talking almost 50 years ago, people just, every generation is bigger than the next. You see some of these kids playing high school football right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're ridiculous. I mean, it was just... from the time.
Think about this. Forrest Gregg. So on the Packers, the great Packers teams of the 60s that were playing against Alex Karras, their left tackle was Forrest Gregg, who ended up coaching the Bengals. He was 6'4", like 230. Wow. He's a left tackle at 6'4", 230 back then. I mean, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
But
clearly.
Well, he wasn't that.
Mongo was still big enough to knock out a horse.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was like, he was a little doughy, but he had a nice right hook.
For what this movie is, there are actually some really good stunts in this movie. Especially
the horse knockout was pretty awesome.
Well, any of the fighting, anybody falling off of a roof, there's. What do you like there, Weave?
What's that?
Well, I mean, which ones do you like? What sticks out to your mind?
Well, there's one, and I can't remember if it's the first time they ride into town when the bushwhackers roll into town when they're whipping up the number 6 on them, or if it's at the end when they come in to the fake Rock Ridge, but they slid. The horse slides off of the walkway in front of the bar and into this trough, and with the rider on it, and pops right back up. Like a couple of amazing. But that's part of the making fun of the whole genre of the westerns.
So I'm going to change subject real fast. I'm looking at Alex Karras' film career. He was freaking in Porky's. Sheriff Wallace in Porky's.
Oh, nice. That was a classic.
That's a movie I haven't seen in 30 years.
Well, there are a lot of people in that movie that make either cameos or are main parts in the movie. And Slim Pickens is fantastic, and Slim Pickens was in a lot of old westerns.
Strangelove.
And Harvey Korman was not even the second choice for Hedley Lamar, but he was awesome as Hedley Lamar. I can't even imagine that movie without Harvey Korman.
No, he was great.
So you said he wasn't even the second choice?
No.
So
according to him, he didn't say that. In Harvey Korman's words, he said, "I'm never anyone's first choice for any role." But Gene Wilder was the first choice, and then I think
he was second.
I don't know who. It was Harvey Korman who was telling the story, but he said that he at least he knows he was not the first choice, and I believe there was another actor set up to do it before he was.
So we're talking about, by the way, for anybody who cares, we're talking about Lewis Burton Lindley Jr., a.k.a. Slim Pickens.
Nice.
Slim Pickens. I think he has some of the best lines in the whole movie. He's got some great ones. But Madeline Kahn's in that movie where it talked about her. Higgins is in that movie.
Yes, that's right.
John Hill.
Oh, yeah. He's one of the townsfolk. He's Howard Johnson, right?
He is.
Yeah, that's correct. Well,
Seriously?
Wasn't everybody in that town Johnson though?
Most of the people were. Yeah.
What did you guys think
funny.
the best scene was in the whole movie?
The best.
I know it's gonna be hard to narrow it down. I had like one or two that I really like.
You know what? I kind of like the end of it because it reminded me of a Looney Tunes cartoon where they painted a fake town and just plywood or whatever.
Hold on.
It reminded me of Bugs Bunny.
But that's not really the end of it. The end of it is when they totally shift scenes and they go to a Hollywood. They show that it's a Hollywood studio and everything.
Right.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of like the start of the climax of the movie.
And by the way, that's the part that makes me just the movie. I was enjoying it up until that point, and I just kind of, to me, it ruined the movie. It really did. Yeah, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the hell the point of it was. It got too goofy for me.
Hey, but at least you got a cameo by Dom DeLuise as the actor of the all-male
As the
music.
director of that.
You know
was he
why
the
Diego
director?
didn't like it, guys? There
Hold on.
wasn't a guy falling for like 25 seconds at the end of it. That's why he didn't like
Nobody
it.
stuck a gun in their mouth and filleted it.
Well, okay, so maybe I don't like as
You are
much
never
as you
going to live
guys
that one
do.
down, are you, Diego?
Maybe maybe I don't like this kind of movie as much as you guys do. But I was enjoying it up until that point, and then I was like, "What is going on?"
They broke the fourth wall multiple times in that movie, so it really kind of made sense. The climax was the ultimate breaking the fourth wall, right? Like,
Right, but I guess that's what I don't like.
Well, you like slapstick movies. I mean, you love
That's what I'm
Jim
saying.
Carrey.
I love Dumb and Dumber. I think
and
it's one
Dumber's the
of the best
best comedy ever
comedies
made.
of all time. Yeah,
That's my
if not
favorite.
the best. Yeah. So it's not that I don't like funny movies or movies of this genre. It's just that part really ruined it for me. So again, I'm going to be on an island. I'm going to be the only person who either likes or doesn't like a particular movie.
that's okay. Hey, we liked In the Line of Fire. We just didn't think it was a classic. That's all.
Yeah.
So we know the scene you didn't like. To answer Matt's question, what was your favorite scene, Diego?
Well, for one, I liked the fact that they confronted societal issues head on in the satire. I thought was extremely clever. I loved seeing Mel Brooks stick his face in between that hot blonde's boobs.
Redhead.
There was a lot I liked.
Redhead.
There was definitely a lot I liked. I mean, in fact, I would say I liked the movie a lot up until that final scene, or the final 10 minutes or so. I don't know. I also thought, I guess, the ending before that final scene where they go to the Hollywood studios, it seemed like it was, there wasn't, I guess there was a quick ending without a lot of fanfare, and I don't know. I just didn't like anything.
See, I would
Other
see
than
that girls that you had dated would have that issue. But like, I'm surprised that you're having a problem with that.
I don't know. I thought the first half of the movie was fantastic. I'll say that.
You know what? Did it Full Metal Jacket it for you?
Go ahead. What's the joke?
It's not a joke. It's just, everyone watches the first half of Full Metal Jacket and then you just stop watching it.
I haven't seen that movie in so long. I don't even remember.
Well, that's
It's like two
that's the
different
funny
movies.
part. That's where it's they're just doing the drill instructor is Gunnery Sergeant Hartman is yelling at everybody.
That's where the most iconic scenes happen.
Yes.
Wait, is that the movie where the guy says, "Well, what can I get for $10?" and she says, "Anything you want"?
Anything.
Is that the same movie?
Tubuku.
That's the same movie.
Tubuku.
Private Pile.
Private
R. Lee
Pile.
Ermey, his greatest role ever.
Yes. God, that was such a good movie.
So back to get on this back on this movie for just a minute. What was your favorite scene?
Well, before I get to my favorite scene, I was just going to say this was one of the 5 movies that I always rented every week on Blockbuster when we were growing up. So they always had the 5 for $5, and we would always get this, Full Metal Jacket, Stripes,
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, Hamburger Hill, and all these war movies. So we always watched this. We would this and Full Metal Jacket and those movies. But my favorite scene was probably a toss-up between just the reaction on everyone's face when they see a black sheriff strolling into town.
They roll up the welcome sign.
It was just so awesome.
The sheriff is near.
Yeah, and then just like that whole scene, him just pulling the gun on himself and just being ridiculous.
That is pretty
I
funny.
loved that whole scene was just amazing. And then the other scene I liked a lot was one of the. I mean, it's been I've watched it a lot, obviously, but I hadn't watched it in a really long time. And one of the things that I always stuck out in my mind was the quicksand scene when they're pulling. They're just worried about getting. They just don't give a shit that they're like dying.
So I love Slim Pickett's line in that where he says, "Don't just lay around getting the suntan. Ain't gonna do you no good, no how."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, the first half of the movie was amazing. It actually really was
The
fantastic.
whole movie was amazing.
And the
Come
fart
on.
scene, the fart scene was ripped off by City Slickers too, pretty bad.
Fart scene was ripped off by a lot of places.
Yeah.
I must say, when I was younger, that part made me laugh more than anything because flatulence always
Yeah.
always funny.
When I was a
Always.
kid, that made me. I would make my dad like rewind it and watch it over and over again, just laugh until I just about had to pee my pants. I mean,
I think
now it's a little different.
The only
but still
fart
fun.
scene that's better than that one is in the Jim Carrey scene where he's in Dumb and Dumber, I think.
Dumb
right?
and Dumber, he likes
Where
it.
Yeah,
Or
he's
he's trying to impress
lighting
that
the
girl.
fire.
That is,
Oh, it's classic.
yeah.
But as far as iconic fart scenes go, that's up there.
So, are we going to talk about Cleavon Little?
Well, one of mine, and this is a little more obscure. I don't know why the scene always makes me laugh, but when Hedley Lamar is sitting in the bathtub, it's after Mongo has failed to eradicate the sheriff, and he's sitting in the bathtub next to Taggart, and he talks about how his mind is cascading rivulets of thought, and he's going through this whole monologue, and Slim Pickens says, "Mr. Lamar, you use your mouth prettier than a $20 whore."
That was a great line.
I love that scene. Froggy, where's my Froggy? So funny, man.
right.
There's so many good ones. Anything with Lily Von Stuppen, it was great. She's so funny.
Oh my God, man!
Yeah, it's
awesome
hard. It's
in
hard
that.
not to save the quotes to the end because there's just. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of Predator. I mean, there's just so many fucking awesome quotes in this movie.
Definitely.
I remember the scene where Bart gets set up with Lily Von Stupp, and then they sort of turn off the lights, and you hear this. This is what I caught this most recent time watching. You hear a zipper going, and you hear it saying, "It's Twoo, it's Twoo." So, what did that mean? I don't understand.
Well, here's the funny part about that scene.
I think you
So
do, by the way.
There's actually, yeah, he talks about it. She says, "Is it true what they say about you people being endowed?" And it's true, it's true. Well, that's actually one line that got cut out of that movie, and it's the only one Mel Brooks said he had to cut out of that movie. The original line, and it was Richard Pryor who supposedly wrote it, was, "It's either you're sucking on my arm or that's my arm," and that was supposed to be the line. Bart's supposed to say to her, "You're sucking on my arm." And for whatever reason, they cut it out. And I never really understood that one. But I've heard it three or four places where they talked about that line being cut out. And actually, I can't find it. I tried to find the original television cut where they beeped out the N-word, obviously. But everything else... no, I'm sorry. The original TV version. The original TV version of this movie had the N-word in it. They beeped out ass, and they beeped out a whole bunch of other stuff. But there were a bunch of other deleted scenes that were in the movie. And that was one of them. That line actually made it into the TV cut. The other thing they did in the TV cut was that the scene where Bart goes after Mongo and he gets him with the candygram. There's like a whole bunch. It's almost like a Looney Tunes skit.
Yeah,
There's a series of Looney Tunes skits. There's like three or four things he does to Mongo. It's not just.
They could have
candygram
actually
thing-
switched that to animation just to do that scene. It was so.
Well, that
it
was a call out to
exactly like
Warner
it.
Brothers because this is a Warner Brothers film, right? And then he gave him the candygram and it exploded, and then Bart kind of acted like Bugs Bunny or something, and he did a little dance and everything. Isn't that right?
Yeah, he does a dance like Bugs Bunny, and then he's sitting around later and he says, "The bitch was inventing the candygram." They probably won't give me any credit for that either.
Wait, so is that why is the fact that there was a Warner Brothers film the reason why Lily Von Stupp sounded like Elmer Fudd?
I think she's supposed to be German, and they just kind of butchered her accent.
The Teutonic twat.
I will say, great Madeline Kahn was awesome in that, but I liked her better than Young Frankenstein. Yeah. I mean, she looked great in this movie. Different character, of course, but Young Frankenstein that movie is probably my favorite Mel Brooks movie.
Well, and she wasn't supposed to be in this movie originally either. She was actually slated to do another movie, and
supposed to be Lucille Ball.
Yeah, with Lucille Ball, and she was mad at her because she did such a bad job. She got fired off that job and ended up getting hired on to Blazing Saddles, and it was really cool. I was listening to some interviews with Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks and Harvey Korman, and they were talking about how by far to a man they thought that she was the most talented person on the set. She was just amazing. And
wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, it really does.
Mel Brooks. I mean, I don't know Madeline Kahn's work as much as I do Mel Brooks, but Mel Brooks is pretty darn talented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean he's had like a 40, 50 decade career, right? Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and he's still alive. Actually,
He's still alive. Yeah,
that's
he's
the
still
crazy
alive.
part. I mean, he's got to be like 91 by now.
He's really old. I'm not even going to bother looking it up to see how old he is. Well, I remember like the 70s and 80s, like seeing History of the World Part 1, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, like of course, and later on in the 80s, Spaceballs, and just seeing so many silent movie, like all classic stuff. I just remember watching it. There's something was always on TV, and I was always watching one of those movies. And of course, a lot of the adult stuff would always go over my head as a kid. Now I appreciate that along with everything else when I rewatch them.
I really want to watch Spaceballs again. I haven't seen that in ages too.
Comb the deserts. That's one of my favorite lines.
We ain't found shit.
Oh, they're using the hair pick, yeah. the two black stormtroopers. One of those guys was Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies, actually.
Wait, are you talking about in this
Spaceballs.
movie? Oh,
No, when they're combing the desert and using the hair pick.
All right, gotta get another beer for Brian.
All right, well, I'm gonna go get Jameson, so I'll let you two run the show for a little bit.
I didn't hear your doorbell ring. He showed up early.
Well, actually, there may be a doorbell ring in about 10 minutes because my mother is gonna come by and bring me some food.
Oh, she's going to tuck you in and kiss you night-night, too?
I'm a mama's boy at 40. I'll be right back.
I could tell.
Man.
No kidding. You know what, Brian? One of my favorite scenes in the movie, too, other than like the end where they paint the town, is when Hedley Lamar is wanting to hire a bunch of gang members to chase the townsmember people out, and he's like, I want to hire, he's going down the big rundown of just all like the worst people, and then you see him finally all lined up and on, applying for the job. And one of the guys gets shot for something too. Like he was so despicable, or they didn't like him, and do you remember what that was for?
Yeah, he got shot because he didn't bring enough gum for everybody else.
Oh, that's right. He was chewing gum. He said, "You have enough for everybody."
There's just so much random crazy shit. Like, how do they even come up with that? It's just such
I
a
don't
random
know.
thing.
Just in that scene alone, they make fun of Mexican banditos, the Ku Klux Klan, because they got that "Have a nice day" sticker on the back of their
Nazi soldiers.
Nazi soldiers, bikers.
Oh yeah, the bikers with like they weren't really on motorcycles. They just had like the handlebars. Then
so
how did Black Bart and Kid get the Ku Klux Klan to chase them?
Well, Bart has a famous line. Jim, first of all, the Waco Kid says, "Hey boys, look what I got," and Bart says, "Hey, where are the white women at?"
And they run behind
Why
the
you gotta be
boulder
stealing all my quotes and shit? That was my number one quote from the whole show, hands down. That was
about
by far the best.
badges.
Yeah.
We don't need no stinking badges.
Where are the white women at is the best quote in this movie.
The other part is when the random lines would be thrown into these like long lists of stuff. Like I don't have Harvey Korman's whole quote in front of me, but where he's talking about putting this list of the army, right? And it was Lily von Stip's idea. You're going to need an army to beat him. And so he puts this army together of cutthroats and bandits and
Yeah, that went the
And-
Oh, here it is.
the
And-
Here it
cutthroats,
is.
murderers,
Here's
bounty
the
hunters.
quote. I want rustlers, cutthroats, murderers, bounty hunters, desperados, mugs, pugs, thugs, nitwits, halfwits, dimwits, vipers, snipers, conmen, Indian agents, Mexican bandits, muggers, buggerers, bushwhackers, hornswogglers, horse thieves, bulldykes, train robbers, bank robbers, ass kickers, shit kickers, and Methodists.
Yes. It's such an awesome ending.
And how about the line where so in order to get enough help to build the fake Rock Ridge, which is the idea, they're going to fake this army of bad guys into attacking the wrong Rock Ridge, and they only have one night to do it. So they have to go back to Bart's friends that are building the railroad,
Rail, yeah.
get the help. And part of the deal is that, hey, all of these former slave freemen, all these Chinese migrant workers, all these people, all the Irish, everybody they want to be able to settle in Rockridge. And you hear Olson Johnson, I think, is the one that says, all right, we'll take the blacks and the Asians, but we won't take the Irish.
Yeah.
Like, that's random.
They were the worst of the worst. Then they allowed the Irish to come eventually.
Yeah, it was great.
How about all like the violence? Like there was an old woman getting like beat up by like somebody holding her back and punching her in the stomach.
I love how they make fun of religion. They make fun of everything. It's so funny. Everything about the movie is great in that regard. That there's there's no holds barred. They make fun of everybody. Make fun of Jewish people. Make fun of. Everybody gets made fun of. White people get made fun of.
Even people from Kansas City. Do you remember the line? I hired you people to try and get a little track laid, not jump around like a bunch of Kansas City faggots. Like what?
Slim Pickens, right?
Yeah. Well, what is that about? Like what is wrong with people from Kansas City?
Have you ever been to Kansas City?
Apparently, I haven't, but apparently I don't understand because I was completely confused by that reference.
I've been to Kansas City, both sides, and it's pretty like Midwestern tough. So I don't know what that means.
How about right away? I think some of these lines are just absurd, just to be absurd. But the one that's funny is right before that, when you got the foreman out there saying, "Hey, how about singing one of those Negro spirituals? You sing songbirds when you were slaves in Black.
That's the beginning of the movie.
Right at the very beginning, he talks about he sings the champagne song. It's great. He's like, what? The Camptown ladies and the white.
That dude.
Well, the white guys were singing like the slave like hymnals, and then these guys were singing like pop music or whatever.
Cleavon Little can sing. Is all I can say.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy had a hell of a voice. You could tell he was a stage actor.
Heck yeah, R.I.P.
Mel Brooks kind of reminds me of...
he died at like 51, I think.
He kind of reminds me of Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the way that they very effectively make fun of every possible person, ethnicity, race, like everything. I mean, they hold nothing back.
Well, and you have to make fun of yourself in order to do that successfully.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just make fun of. You can't leave anybody out. What's great was Mel Brooks being Jewish made fun of when he's the Indian chief and he's speaking Yiddish. It's he's just he doesn't pull any punches. Everybody gets made fun of.
Which is also kind of like Seinfeld when who was the guy? He was like the dentist guy who was converting to Judaism so he could get the Jewish jokes he wanted to make. He wanted to make the jokes, so he just converted. Remember that episode? I think it was I forget what it's called. It's about the dentist.
Anti-dentite.
Anti-dentite.
Anti-dentite. Yeah. You're an anti-dentite.
You guys remember the line, Taggart's line, let's kill every firstborn male child in Rock Ridge?
Yeah.
And then Heather Lamar responds, nah, too Jewish.
Too Jewish, yeah.
That's great.
I'm not sure I even understand what that means. But
that's Old Testament stuff, man. That's Old Testament.
How do you not know that?
I mean, I assumed it was, but I guess I don't know the Bible well enough.
That's the Torah.
Aren't you like Catholic, like a good Catholic?
No, I'm a bad Catholic.
He's a Catholic. I had to explain to him the whole.
I'm drinking Catholic whiskey right now, though. I think James.
Like after that line is when he says, "Ooh, I got it. Whip up a number 6 on him." And he says, and I don't remember the whole line, but he basically at the end of it he says, he makes it sound like he's going to spare the women, and Hedley Lamar says, "You spare the women? Oh no, we raped the shit out of them later at the number 6 dance." Making fun of rape. Just wrong.
Well,
it was so wrong.
They made fun of rape a couple times too, because when they're going through and Hedley Lamar's getting his gang or his army together, the one guy is, they asked him what his specialties were, and he said like rape 2 different times, and they're like, "You already said rape." He's like, "I like rape."
It's kinky. Well, how about the other part was so right after they whip up the number 6 on Rock Ridge, and the pastor is up there on the pulpit, and he's talking about all the bad things that have happened. He talked about how the cattle were raped and the women were stampeded.
Hey guys, I know this podcast, at least as of right now, is called Waiting for Diego, but this week it might be that I'm going to leave early because I arrived on time.
Well,
so,
I think we could. Why can't we just close her down and get ready at least for the people's ratings?
I'm just letting you know if it goes much further.
We'll get it done at like 9:10, 9:15.
Matt and I actually have a fantasy draft at 9:30, and I'm the commissioner, so we got to get this thing wrapped up.
It's not my problem.
I'm just saying. 9:15. I'm gonna have to bail out. So.
Is it an online draft? You can multitask, right?
Yeah.
I could, but between drinking and the podcast and the
Chewing
draft,
gum, walking.
I think I'll screw something up.
Dude, you
I
screw
think you're
something
right.
up with only one
I think
chore.
you're right.
I've got the number 5 pick. I already don't know what I'm going to do with that.
Out of how many? Out of how many teams?
14.
Oh, that's not that bad of a spot then.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
I
That's a
got
horrible
the
spot.
10th spot. I'm fucked.
Yeah,
Well-
you might be doing some wide receivers right off the bat.
Well, first of all, it's a PPR league, half a point per catch, and 6 points for quarterback for throwing touchdowns. So the running back is not as valuable as he would be in a regular league. So
Well, it's a good thing we brought this up, so now I can tag this podcast with fantasy football.
no kidding.
there you go. There you go.
Waiting on Diego Fantasy Football Podcast for preseason week 3.
That'll get people to download it for
They're
sure.
like, where is the fantasy football in this fucking thing? They're like, we had to wait to the 45-minute mark, and then we discussed it for 2 minutes, and then
Not only that, the millennials will be like, "What the hell is Blazing Saddles?"
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I do kind of wonder.
1974.
This ever. Like I
So-
was thinking about that. If you're 20 years old right now, you think you'll ever watch this movie? Like I don't know. They should, because it's one of the all-time classics.
yeah, that doesn't matter. I mean, you listen to
Consistently in the top 10.
you listen to music and stuff that's
I would hope
way
so.
older.
Yeah, but I think people are,
Movies are different than music,
Yeah,
though.
it is. It is.
No, but
People-
I watch lots of classic movies that are really
Yeah,
old
but
too. Like I mean, I
I
haven't watched.
guarantee you listen to more classic music than you watch classic TV shows or movies, though.
I don't think so.
People are
Not anymore. I
dissuaded.
watch way more movies than I listen to music now.
People are dissuaded by the bad quality of the picture. I think.
Well, maybe not that, but different times, and like it doesn't always play the same. Like the movies our parents grew up with, while some of them are good and classics that you could watch, the majority of that TV shows or movies, they don't pique our interest.
Right.
Yeah, but why is that?
It's different times. Like they grew up in different times and we grew up in different times. Same
Well, I
thing
mean,
with-
part of the problem is you don't know any of the actors, or you
Yeah.
haven't
It's
seen.
like-
well,
It's
what
right.
they're
Yeah,
talking
context.
about and interacting with, it's not the same of what you're
Yeah,
experiencing
and then
day to day.
a lot of times you're going to have most movies are going to have references to things that are going on, and those aren't happening now, and they haven't happened
Right.
in a really long time, so you might not know everything that's going on.
Let me give you a perfect example. When I was growing up, in the 80s, every TV show, every sitcom would have a very, very special episodes every season, right? One of the ones that creep me out still to this date happened in different strokes, where Arnold and his buddy got, the Maytag repairman, Gordon Jump, had owned that bike shop, and in the back of the bike shop, he would take kids and give them wine and show them dirty movies. And I think Dudley may have got pictures taken of him molested. Do you guys remember that episode of Different Strokes?
No, but I remember you talking about it before.
Yeah.
Okay, so that scares me. That creeps me out. That's a product of his time. If I showed that to my son right now, who's 12, he would laugh his ass off at it, and it wouldn't scare him
Right.
at all, because it's not the same. Time's not the same. It's a lot different. Saved by the Bell. Jesse Spano gets hooked on caffeine pills, right? Like,
I love that scene.
you show that to somebody now, and they're going to think it's the stupidest thing ever. But like when
That's
we
why
watched
I love it.
well,
Why,
when we watched it,
why don't you read the line for us real quick,
No.
Jason?
Well, part of that too with this one that I kind of wondered about was, we're still dealing with a lot of the racial tension and a lot of the issues that were brought up in the movie. They're just dealt with in a completely different way, and I think the dialogue is totally different now. We still have the same issues. I mean, you can relate to them, but I don't know that people. I think in a way they might get turned off by the fact that it's so blunt.
Well, you guys might
Yes.
have racial tension in Ohio, but we certainly don't have any of that here in Baltimore.
Oh,
in
no,
Baltimore
not
now,
right? Yeah.
everybody lives in harmony, hands across America.
I mean, from what I've seen, everything
Actually,
is pretty,
in DC, we kind of do. Comparatively.
Except if you're Democrat and Republican, then you don't hate each other.
But we also live in this with us being such a PC society. I mean, it's kind of like I think people kind of fake themselves into thinking that we're beyond these issues, and we're really not. And in fact, with the PC,
You
with-
really think that anyone thinks that we're
that.
beyond that?
I think there are people who think
Yes,
we
I
are.
do.
There are people that think
And I
that
think
we're
it's-
beyond
I
that.
would
don't
hope
understand
not.
why-
I mean,
I totally agree.
I think it's pretty
totally-
obvious that we're nowhere near beyond it.
Didn't the Supreme Court
No, but
declare that racism is over a couple years ago?
Well, I mean, I think that maybe I don't want to get too political here, but one of the things I think is going on is that the victim in all of this hasn't forgotten the sins of the past. And so you constantly see that coloring any event that happens now. So, for example, if somebody who happens to be black gets shot by a white person, a cop, let's say, a white cop, automatically racism is injected into the argument where it could have been nothing to do with race, but automatically race is the issue. So,
Well, there's a lot of people that make good money because of that.
oh, sure.
You know, I mean, Al Sharpton has to show up
there
every
is,
time
but that's
something happens.
what they show in this. When
That's
they
what
show
lawyers
in this
do.
movie, though, is the fact that it was a reality. We did fight a civil war over slavery, and there were long-term effects that we're still feeling from this. And in 1874, it seems like it was, forever ago, but it wasn't. 140 years ago is not that long. And when you look back, that was kind of one of the things watching this is like, to think, hey, there were all these people that really did make huge contributions to the growth and betterment of this nation. Because we still weren't a full nation the way we know it, because we grew up with 50 states, being coast to coast, having territories outside the continental United States. But for people who would have lived back then, that was still a question, to whether that was actually going to unfold that way. And that was largely done on the backs of migrant workers and freed slaves. And, there was it still has not been a simple and peaceful transition to this coexistence of all these different cultures in one country. And in that sense, I kind of felt a little bit sad that we're still dealing with this crap. I mean, this movie was, 10 years after the Civil Rights Movement?
Yeah, 10 years.
And here we are.
That's not very long.
Later,
that's not very long, though.
No, and here we are 40 years later, and we may have been able to have a more honest dialogue about it 40 years ago than we can now.
Well, right, but political correctness makes it hard sometimes. I think
it really
to have
does.
That honest dialogue.
It does.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I'm not sure what I hate more: people having to always be way too PC, or helicopter parents. Those are like the two things that I hate. Like
helicopter parents.
Like I can't handle either of those two things.
DC helicopter parents, which you probably see a lot on the East Coast.
Wait, what are you, Matt? You're probably a polar opposite to helicopter parents. So what would you call yourself? What do you call someone like that?
I don't know.
Absentee parent?
No.
No.
I tried to be
I'm
a seagull.
kidding. Matt's a good dad.
I tried to be a seagull manager. I come down, crap on everything, and then fly away.
There you go.
That's my,
Let your wife handle it.
yeah, there you go. As I'm doing tonight.
Well, tell her she needs to handle it a little bit better than she has.
Yeah, right.
Well, his wife is able to manage a bar or restaurant, so she can handle a couple kids. She can handle a bunch of drunks. Same thing.
She came in tonight looking a little beaten down from what was going on in the other room. But
It looks like you let the kids into the liquor cabinet.
I probably did. Who knows?
Well, you give them enough, they'll just pass out. That's the thing.
Maybe I should.
Well, they have been a lot quieter in the second half of the podcast.
That's because I think my daughter went to sleep. So the issue was my son and my daughter they were just jacking with each other the whole time, and there's just no good way to stop it, because whoever you correct is going to go into a tizzy and throw a fit. And so that was my son throwing a fit because he was the problem who was getting thrown out of the room.
Well, I'm sure our 5 listeners enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
When our wives listen to this, they'll understand.
But the other thing about this that made me a little bit sad was that I've seen this movie so many times now that the jokes aren't funny per se anymore. I mean, they're funny, but they're not funny, because I know they're all coming. And so it's like, is this the way it's going to be any comedy that I've seen? Because you're just never going to have that same reaction. You're chasing that same high. You can appreciate it, but you can't enjoy it like you did the first time you ever saw it.
Well, I want to say I thought it was a hilarious movie. I did. And any negatives that I talked about earlier in the podcast, they're based more on the fact that I think some of those things that I talked about detracted from the overall movie. But as far as humor, it was one of the funniest movies I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, no
mean,
doubt about it.
Yeah, without question.
I mean,
When
if you're going to complain about it being funny, I think I was talking about Brian complaining.
Oh, no,
about
I'm not
being
complaining.
funny. I mean, I think we're going to have to go to Pesci's favorite scene in What Am I, a Clown? Do I amuse you?
Oh, that is your favorite line of any movie ever. I've heard you say that probably 50 times, maybe more in my life.
And the best part is I probably don't remember ever saying any of this.
Yeah, it's called... Yeah, you're drunk every time, of course.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee he's going to cut it. He'll cut it in. He'll edit that one into the show.
It'll be there. So let's start. It's funny.
Start winding it down.
I think it was Brian. He sent an email when he was like, what was it? There was the Predator one. He was listening to it. He's like, yeah, we started wrapping it up, and then there was another 45 minutes.
No, we really need to wrap it up today. Yeah. We absolutely have to. My mom will be coming in with dinner any minute now.
Dinner? It's 9 o'clock. Your mom's bringing you dinner? God.
We're Hispanic, okay? No, they came over, and Matt implored me to do the podcast tonight.
Well, yeah, we've been slacking big time.
Right? No, we have. So they were supposed to come over, and I had forgotten about the podcast, and I had to send them home, and they said they're going to go get food and come back. So,
all right. Well,
anyway,
we can start this up. We can start the.
Okay, so let's get to the favorite quotes. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to find another one since Brian took mine because he was.
No, you could still use it.
He was stealing quotes the whole show. Let's see. You guys go ahead.
Good Lord, there are 100 of them.
I know, but that was the best.
It's not really favorite quotes. It's just a good quote because there's so many.
"Where all the white women at" is the best quote in any movie ever.
And I've heard Matt use that too when we've gone to bars.
Yeah. I've heard him say it a ton of times.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go with that anyway because I think that's the best quote I've ever heard in any movie. So that's my quote, and I don't care. That's awesome.
I think you use that. I think that's a good one.
Okay. Other than maybe the part where the guy said, well, the qualifications: rape, murder, arson, rape.
You said rape twice.
Yeah,
I like rape.
Kinky.
No, that might be the best one actually.
All right, who's going first?
All right, I'll go.
Brian.
I'll go. And this isn't. I don't know if this is the best one, but it's a good one. So I figured I'd use it since you guys used a lot of the good ones already. So this is the Waco Kid. You've got to remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land, the common clay of the New West. Morons. I thought that was a good line. I don't know. Not as good as some of the ones we mentioned, but still good.
I like. Well, go ahead, Jason. Jason?
Hello, are you alive? Did you have a heart attack?
Did we lose him?
Is he dead?
Right in the middle of. Those weren't even my.
All right, and how am I sounding? Because everybody was cutting out there for a second.
Oh, well, we thought you were dead.
You were good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
And he cut out again.
All right. Thank you. All right. My favorite quote is probably the one I went over when Hedy Lamarr was looking for all his army. The one with I want rustlers, cutthroats, murderers, et cetera, on the way down to Methodists.
There's so many we didn't even touch on. Like even in the Waco Kid when he first wakes up, and he says, and Sheriff Bart asks him his name, and he says Jim, but most people call me Jim. Like that one's just simple, but I think that's one of his funniest ones. There's the one. Oh crap! I had it written down here for a second. Hang on one second.
Oh, your kids are back at it again.
Oh, I know. Hang on one second.
That's the best. I love it.
By the way, my food is here, so if you hear any interruptions, that is my mom, my dad, and my brother.
Oh, the whole family came. Nice.
Well, there's two brothers that aren't here.
But my quote I love Slim Pickens. I think has the best. He has some of the best lines in that entire movie. But one of my favorite ones is where he says, "Here we go and take the good time and trouble to slaughter every Indian in the West, so we can appoint a sheriff who's blacker than any Indian. I am depressed."
Hey, was Slim Pickens the one who always get hit in the head and knocked out?
Yeah, that's Slim Pickens. That's
All
Taggart.
right.
One of the other good ones that I really liked, it wasn't one of my favorites, but it was back with the scene that I liked the best was when Bart had the gun to his head and he was saying, "Drop it or I swear I'll blow this African American's head all over this town." And of course I have to edit my statement because it's 2015 and we can't say things like that anymore.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you said African American, that would have been pretty freaking amazing because I don't think that term had been used yet.
Exactly.
How about "Excuse me while I whip this out"?
Wait, what part is that?
That's right before that, where he first gets up there on the stage and says,
Yeah.
"Pardon me while I whip this out."
Yeah, so that's
the
what I'm
women
saying. Like that
scream.
whole scene was. That's why that scene was probably my favorite of the movie.
Yeah.
Just because like that whole scene was just perfect. The way their reaction to him when he comes in, and then just like everything that happened after that, like all those quotes. I mean, that scene was awesome.
Fellas, I don't mean to rush everybody, but we've got 17 minutes until Romo is the second best quarterback of all time. Starts their draft. So
Or when the elderly woman said, "Up yours, African American." That was a funny one too.
When he said, "Good morning, ma'am. How you doing today?" And she said, "Up yours, N-word."
All right, we got to wrap this. We got to wrap this up with our rating.
All right, Diego, why don't you start since you're such a hurry?
Jason, my wife
Yes.
really appreciated that elephant picture, by the way.
I thought you would.
right.
Filthy Steelers fans. All right, Diego, rate it. Last thoughts and rate it.
Well, now you're putting me on the spot here. I'm not ready to rate it. Is anybody else?
You're ready to get off the damn podcast, but you're not ready to rate it. Come on.
No, hang on.
who
You
won-
know what? The other one, Diego's always coming and going and going and coming and always too soon.
Ooh.
Who said that?
Brian Weaver.
No. Who was? Was that one of the lines in the movie?
That's one of the lines in her song, Lily Von Ship's song.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. So I am going to say that this movie, obviously, I for me, I have conflicting opinions about it. I go on a 10-point scale, as you guys probably remember, and I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give it. Actually, I go half points as well, so I'm gonna give it 7.5 Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens. That's where you rate something if it was bad, Slim Pickens.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be the low rating, I think. So I figured I'd give it a Slim Pickens rating.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and give this a 9.25. Raging torrents flooded with rivulets of thought cascading into a waterfall of creative alternatives.
Nice. I didn't know you were going to go quarter. I didn't know we were allowed to go quarter points here.
All right, Jason, I'm going next because I don't want you stealing my rating.
All right.
I got to go and get it out. This is one of the all-time great comedies. It should be seen by generations to come. I give it 15 Schnitzengrubens out of 17.
Nice.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Out of 17, where do we even get that?
Well, 15 is my limit on Schnitzengrubens.
All right. Well, I think we got to tighten up our rating system and have more rules.
You were the one that fucked it up at the beginning. You said 15 out of 10 or something, or was that Jason who fucked it up?
That wasn't me. That wasn't
Jason.
me.
That was Jason who screwed it up on Roadhouse.
I believe in rules. So I definitely didn't say that.
That's weak.
15 is my limit on Schnitzengrubens.
15 out of 17. That is the most random comment I've ever heard. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, come on.
All right. I'm with B. Weave on this one. This is one of the great, iconic comedies of all time. It goes across racial, ethnic, religious, sexual, whatever you want. device across everything. First farting scene on film, so you got to give extra points for that. Webster's dad is in it, so ex-football players, more points for that. And Gene Wilder, awesome, points for that. So I'm going to give this approximately 9.66 horse punches out of 10.05.
I thought you were going to go elderly women punches. And by the way, I think that I am now officially protesting our rating system. Because if you can go to the 100th of a decimal point, there's a problem.
All round up to make it easy on you. I'll give it a 9.7 out of 10 horse
All right,
punches.
that's better, still unacceptable.
9.75 elderly women behind the counter in a small town.
All right, now you're
Farting
doing
around a
music. Now you're doing Pearl Jam, I think.
All right, so since I think we're finally going full circle, we will be going next week. I don't know if you guys have it. I have it on DVD, and you guys should too. I know Brian hasn't seen it yet, but I'm glad that you haven't, because you will finally be exposed to the awesome that is Cool Hand Luke.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, Cool Hand
Very
Luke.
cool.
We
All
should
right.
make sure these are Netflix and Amazon ready streaming movies, though.
Well, from now on we will, but I guess we already picked this one. So
we say that every week, by the way.
No, I know. But from now on, let's do that. Let's talk beforehand and actually make sure.
I've got my Netflix and Amazon list already created. I'm so excited.
Okay, well, I'm glad we were able to finally do this podcast, because I think it's been 3 weeks, and I'm enjoying this this podcast a lot, and I think 3 weeks was too long. So
Well, we're having don't have podcast dysfunction, or as my 12-year-old son told my wife's 40-year-old friend yesterday, "How's your stomach doing? You still have erectile dysfunction?"
where did he hear that?
She has irritable bowel syndrome, and he messed it up, and he's heard those commercials on TV all the
That's
time.
hilarious.
So, so we had to talk to him about that.
All right, well, you're now giving me 10 minutes to prepare for my fantasy draft, so I think it's time to wrap this up.
Yes. All right. Until next week, bitches.
All right, have a good one. Good luck on your draft, Diego. You'll screw it up no matter which spot you have, but good luck anyways.
All right, probably so. See you guys next week.
All right.
See ya.
Peace out.
guys.
Bye-bye.
My mind is a raging torrent, flooded with rivulets of thought, cascading into a waterfall of creative alternatives.